Today's Tuesday, May 14th. May the 14th be with you.
And we're going to do government and social media. And it's not all Facebook social media this week, but most of it is because...
The walls are closing in on Facebook. I feel like that every week is a new chapter, and like we need to write this up as some sort of drama because will Facebook survive this? Because there's all this cavalry coming in, and there's just... Seems like an impossible situation for them to survive.
What popular actor would play Mark Zuckerberg?
A toaster.
Maybe we gender bend it. Put a female lead in there. The kids would love that.
I don't know of any actor that, like, is there an actor that could play that? I mean, it's literally...
Didn't they do a movie?
You have to, well, yeah. Oh, yeah, The Social Network. That guy did a really great job playing Mark Zuckerberg. It was, I'll think of it in about 5 minutes.
Well, another person that's not popular among the children or anybody really... Actually, I guess, like, rich old politicians are particularly fond of him. But not in the telecom industry, but not anybody else, is Ajit Pai. He's also always in the news.
Ajit Pai refuses to investigate Frontier's horrible telecom service. The writer of this article really did their homework on this too, because it's not just one instance of this. It's actually thousands of complaints in like Minnesota. But this is not the first time that the FCC has ignored these kinds of complaints against a communications provider.
As you might imagine, Minnesota, pretty rural. It's mostly just cows. Wait, is that Wisconsin? It's probably both, right?
Probably both. Corrections, engagement challenge.
So they are a big recipient of the municipal rural broadband. What's it called? The money that comes out of your bill.
$27 million.
And goes into spreading broadband to rural communities like that. So they get a lot of that money. And Pi says, no, look at these reports that they produced. They're doing an excellent job of spreading the rural service, and the opponents here are saying that's not what we're talking about, Mr. Pai. We're talking about the fact that the service goes down for months at a time, and they don't do anything.
Yeah, the for months at a time was the operative thing there. So it was the House, I think, had written him a letter asking what's up with this, and he really didn't directly respond to any of their questions. It was literally just, we've got this report. Things seem fine in the report. From
Frontier.
Yeah, it's like some things seem fine in the report. It's probably fine. But the reality in, like, some of you guys are in rural America. You tell us how is ISP connectivity there. It's pretty terrible, isn't it? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. And they also, not only does it go out for months at a time, but they refuse to change the billing because of that. Like, You still have to pay your bill. You're still under contract, even when your service doesn't work. And there seems to be a lot of empirical evidence, if not documented evidence, that this is happening and people are complaining, but Ajit Pai he doesn't see it.
A lot of the people in those rural communities will take matters into their own hands and just build their own ISP, but there's lots of political and other barriers that stop that, which is the really disappointing thing here, because that's what makes people feel powerless.
One of the biggest opponents of that, Mr. Ajit Pai.
Turns out.
Yeah. And when it comes to regulation, a lot of people point to the current technological climate and say we need regulation, but somehow it's a myopic look because they don't see Ajit Pai as the ultimate end to regulation. You have to fix it on a more fundamental level, but that doesn't change the FTC's desire to see it.
FTC commissioners back privacy law to regulate tech companies. So this, the New York Times talks about how Zuckerberg has called to be regulated, but I think it's a little bit of a red herring here because the FTC is just not equipped to handle technological things in general. They're not. The Federal Communications Commission was originally created because this new thing called radio and the implications of that. And the FTC has just not done a good job retooling themselves as things have changed over the last 200 years.
We see this every time that they question somebody from the tech industry. Like the, what's his name from Google?
Sundar
Pichai. When they were grilling him, and he was just like sitting there with his mouth open, and I was like, "What? What are you asking me?"
I've got my iPhone right here, and he's like, "Sir, that's not my iPhone. We don't do iPhones."
So yeah, it seems. Do we need something Yeah, we probably do. I mean, there are some big problems. Are these the people to do it? Probably not. But is it better than nothing? Also a good question.
Are there any reasonable people left in government?
No,
Just one reasonable person.
you can't get there. You can't win an election. Oh my gosh. So many pop-ups from Wired. And here's another perfect example of somebody needs to do something. But are we really thinking it through?
This senator wants to ban video game loot boxes aimed at kids. So, okay.
Loot boxes and microtransactions. Now, there's some weird wording in this bill. It's aimed at kids is actually in the text. But then there's a caveat of, or widely popular among kids. So what video game isn't widely popular among kids that's widely popular?
Train Simulator?
I think kids are playing that.
Euro Truck Simulator?
I think kids are playing that. I don't think those have loot boxes either.
Maybe one of those, like, anime click adventures that are not supposed to be played by children.
But I bet children play those. See, that's the thing. And then who decides, how do you determine if it's widely played by children?
Yeah, that is ambiguous.
Obviously, some of the shooter games, which are like mature rated, right? Kids are playing those.
I forgot what article it was, but when we get to it, it was the one about mobile PUBG, but I'll just spoil it right now. So in China, you don't, like, when you down somebody, they no longer die. They produce a loot box and wave goodbye because of local regulations.
Like
there.
a good communist citizen would when you shoot them.
Here's my loot box. I'll see you later.
So yeah, I don't know about this one. It seems now loot boxes. I think almost everybody agrees that loot boxes are terrible things.
Yeah,
and microtransactions are terrible things. But if you want to do foreshadowing, the Fortnite article,
yeah,
that will be not in this episode, but eventually down the road, kids maybe do like those things.
Yeah,
it might be a big part of their social world.
I know a lot of middle-aged moms that are playing Candy Crush, and Candy Crush is one of the things the article mentions because there's like $150 like multi-pack thing for Candy Crush.
A bundle.
And I'm sitting here thinking, we're in the wrong business. I mean, $150 for Candy Crush? Candy Crush?
Yeah, well, it looks like we picked the wrong time to switch horses on that one.
Lord.
The U.S. is actually kind of lagging behind. Several EU countries have already done something like this. And it's interesting because the game companies were quick to change those games. But I think in terms of one of the Star Wars games, it turned out that once you took that out of it, then they had focused so much on making it, just an endorphin machine to make you want to buy things. When they took that out of it, the game kind of sucked, which is interesting.
We need to design games that people genuinely enjoy, not that exploit psychological hacks in order to sell our crap.
But there's just no money in that. How can you make money in that, even though people have been doing it since the 70s?
We ought to make people play Zork. And it's like, this is what we played this and we liked it.
Yeah, that's one of the things about the arcade cabinet is when you don't have the risk of that quarter on the line and there's no, that risk reward is not there anymore. You're like, these games weren't that much fun. These are kind of repetitive and they're kind of all the same game with different skins on them.
I was surprised at how terrible I was at Frogger because I used to be really good at Frogger. I'm terrible at Frogger.
I got one of the high scores on Frogger on that machine. I'll say it. Do you remember the Anthem hackers? I don't think we talked about this on the Level 1 News because that was 2014.
Yeah.
We didn't exist.
Yeah.
But there was Anthem, the insurance company, was hacked, and the wheels of justice, they turned, but they turned slow.
I'm not really sure they got everybody, but the U.S. has charged one of the Anthem hackers. They picked him up outside Indianapolis. And they stopped short of blaming the Chinese government, but the person they picked up is a Chinese national that was somehow involved, so...
Fuji Wang.
I have a feeling that this is going to be coming up in the Level 1 News again and again. This is from ZDNet. There really wasn't a lot of details here other than they picked up this guy, and there's some pretty good evidence, but that's about it.
Yeah, but like you say, he was definitely not working alone. Was he working with the Chinese government? This could be completely political.
Yeah.
Bad news for Fuji Wang.
I wonder how this is connected to Meng Zhu, the Huawei CEO.
I mean, when I say I'm talking about like the trade war.
Oh yeah,
he's a casualty of the trade war. Maybe a bargaining chip.
That's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, the trade war is bad. And speaking of big money and how it controls all of our destinies, here's an interesting new thing. Of course, we all know that tech company, well, Uber, for example. Let's foreshadow again. Let's just spoil all the news stories. Uber had the big IPO, and I'm just going to give you a little spoiler. Didn't go well. And it shows how a company, once they go public, can be completely controlled by the investors and the shareholders because they want profit. And some people in Silicon Valley are saying, we have a better way.
U.S. regulators approve a new Silicon Valley stock exchange. This is really the last hurdle. I read this expecting to be very angry because it's coming out of the valley, so obviously it's going to be terrible for humanity and terrible for society. But this exchange is focused on long-term stuff. It talked about how the guy that started it did a bunch of analysis of companies that had gone public, and even if you just look at like how often they filed for a patent or how much R&D they were doing, as soon as they go public, they're focused on the next quarter numbers, and things like R&D and patents and stuff like that go out. Hell, you could look at Google. You could say that it took Google a little while, but there's something going on. Google today is not the Google that they were 10 years ago.
Well, think about Intel. If Intel was in this situation, could they survive coming out and saying, listen, guys, that 10 nanometer stuff, we were way optimistic on that. We're going to get it, but it's going to take longer. But it's okay because, it's going to happen eventually. If they did that now,
yeah, that would be bad.
They would be crucified. It's actually better for them to lie.
Yeah, everything's on track.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, no, it's not on track. 7 nanometer is going to beat 10 nanometer here. It's not and we're on track.
So maybe that's a good thing. I remember when the algorithmic trading was like really in the news. That's been 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago at this point. There was a guy that came out and he was like, hey, just give me money. I've designed a stock exchange that prevents that from happening. And you never heard from him again.
Yeah. That's sort of what I expected here. So this is something I'm going to watch with cautious optimism.
Yeah, it is going to happen. Now the question is, are all the big brokers going to let you trade?
They make a lot of money from the terrible situation.
But they are letting, most of the big brokers are now getting into cryptocurrency. So maybe just making money wins out over protecting the old guard.
I don't know. Maybe long term. Short term, there's no liquidity. Like if the short term market stuff is all arrested algorithmically, everything will enter paralysis. That would actually slow down the growth of the economy.
Yeah. I mean, if you get in a situation so bad that the machines pull out, then we're already in free fall.
Yeah.
So then you can't get out and everybody gets crushed. And that's going to be an interesting time. That's going to be like prepper time. China, we've talked about them already, but let's talk about China Mobile. It kind of seems like Huawei was the scapegoat for a little while, but now we've got China Mobile, and we can beat that horse for a while.
The FCC has blocked China Mobile from operating in the U.S. over national security concerns. Now remember, from weeks gone past at the Level 1 News, China Mobile was not going to operate in the U.S. as China Mobile, but they were interested in entering the U.S. market, and the FCC has said no.
You think they're sitting around the boardroom lamenting? It's like, we shouldn't have called ourselves China Mobile.
Well, what's to stop them from buying a tiny... there are still very tiny regional providers here in the U.S. What would stop them from just buying one of those and then starting to expand aggressively?
You could get Sprint for a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like, good luck stopping that.
But again, I think that's pretty much political. I don't think you can't beat this one easily.
I wonder what the lobbyists are going to do when like Cisco is blocked in China. It's like, oh, Cisco wants to sell their stuff in China. Nope.
I don't think they'll care. But I think that's the purpose of the trade war, right?
Cisco will care.
Oh yeah, but Cisco's not the U.S. government. They don't have the lobbying power. Now, if Google gets blocked,
or Oracle, I bet Larry Ellison would be real upset.
But we've seen that Google is more than happy to bend over backwards to do what China wants.
We've stopped working on this. Now we've got a China team that's working on it. Wait, there's work still being done. Shh.
Well, if you love drugs or illegal firearms or human trafficking or stolen data, there's only one. It's one-stop shopping, and that's the dark web. But you got to worry.
The Justice Department has shut down a dark web drug directory and arrested the alleged owners. So this was apparently a I don't want to call it a social network, but it connected providers with.
Well, you can't. There is no web crawler for the dark web.
Yeah.
So you have to. It's like remember the early days of the internet where you had directory sites and there wasn't even a search. I mean,
Yeah.
Google existed, but it's like it wasn't what it is now. You had web crawler and Alta Vista, and so sometimes you would just go to these directory sites. It's like, oh, here's the cool sites on the internet, because we didn't know what was cool. We had to be told. That's kind of what the dark web is now. This guy just ran one of those, and you're thinking, wow, that's crazy. They arrested a guy and shut him down just for doing that. Not just for doing that.
Yeah, there was some other stuff in there that he was doing that was probably bad.
He took a little bit of money every time one of his links took you to make a drug transaction, for example. Which is impressive. I mean, if I was running those sites, I would be terrified to run tracking software that tracked that much of the interaction.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to follow that user from the click all the way to the transaction, which is going to destroy their anonymity.
I wonder at what point it becomes illegal. Like, is it just that it's like, if here's the link to this site where you can maybe do some illegal stuff, is that illegal? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I think it's the fact that he took money.
Yeah.
Because the charge is money laundering.
Well, I'm just thinking about like the Facebook ads where Facebook has gotten paid for selling subprime loans. I mean, in effect. So it's like, is that the same?
Well, subprime loans weren't illegal at the time. But you knew that this was illegal and you were making money off of it.
Okay.
I think. But money laundering, it might not even have been that. The money laundering might have been his attempt to turn the crypto into
actual real cash.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like they'll go way downstream to charge you, but we all know what it's about. And it's about the directory. Robocalls, I feel like my robocalls have stepped up lately.
They have.
Yeah. I don't think I've gotten these, but I would never know because who calls back? These days, I never call a number back if I miss a call.
Nope.
Ever. That's crazy.
One ring robocall scam targeting New York and Arizona area codes, the FCC has warned. So what happens is they call you and they hang up while it's ringing. If you call them back, if you aren't paying attention, you're calling a toll number. They're going to bill the bejesus out of you.
And it's in Africa, so it's not, I don't think it's like a 900 or a toll number that we recognize as a toll number. I think 222 is the exchange, so you can watch out for that. But again, don't call those numbers back. But the horrific thing about this was it happens in the middle of the night. So when you get a call in the middle of the night, you do have that fear like, oh, who's dead? Especially the older you get. And they would call you multiple times in a short amount of time. So it's like, oh my God, this is urgent. I better find out what it is. Pay a toll. Terrible. Terrible things they're doing. And we're worried about loot boxes.
Yeah.
Excellent priorities, government. Cloudflare. The Cloudflare was in the news because it kind of protects its users' identities or tries to. Remember the big white supremacy thing?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, should they? Should they not? It turns out you can get a subpoena pretty easily.
The RIAA has obtained a subpoena to expose infringing Cloudflare users. So there's some websites that the RIAA has identified, and they sent a letter to Cloudflare that's like, hey, we want these people, but doesn't this also constitute repeat infringement under your own? Cloudflare actually does have policies for taking down sites that are repeat infringing pirate sites, or however how you want to say that. And so this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Here they are. Smart enough to obfuscate most of these URLs, but this one is obviously Taylor Swift. And she doesn't tolerate that shit.
I've noticed that recently the Google search results require your email now to view the DMCA results, which is disappointing.
So yeah, they you only need a clerk's signature to get that subpoena to make Cloudflare identify the owner of an infringing URL. I guess you'd have to prove it's an infringing URL, but who knows? We'll see what happens there. They also have not said what they intend to do about it. but I think it's pretty clear they're going to sue somebody.
Yeah.
Smart locks and Ring doorbells and all that stuff. It seems like people are adopting those pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
A lot of people have those. I was at the veterinarian I went to for my cats. She had Ring everywhere.
Oh, someone has not told her about the Russians mining Bitcoin on the Ring doorbells. That's not good.
And you see a lot of those. Of course, we had the stories about people stealing them, even though they're locked to a specific thing. But some people don't like them. And what do you do if you rent and your landlord thinks you should have that?
Well, tenants have won a settlement. A settlement orders landlords to give physical keys over smart locks. This is a settlement, though. I'm like, CNET makes this sound like it's more than it is, but basically some tenants got together to sue some landlords in New York that were implementing the smart lock system, and they settled out of court. It was getting ready to go to court. And a lawyer for the landlords was kind of snide about it. They're like, look.
Well, he just lost.
Well, I mean, they didn't really lose. They agreed to settle, but the lawyer was like, we're going to do this. And apparently the building owner was like, this is dumb. If they want to use regular locks, we'll just let them. So it seemed like the lawyer didn't get to do what they wanted on the landlord side, but the landlords just didn't care. They didn't want the PR, probably.
The tenants had a good argument. Although they mentioned one of the tenants was 97 years old.
Yeah.
And you imagine, he didn't care about the privacy stuff. He was just like, I can't figure my locks out, But they talked about, I can't remember who the lock company was, but somebody read the term of service and it was like, we're tracking your location at all times. And they're like, we shouldn't have to give up our location privacy just to use these doors.
Yeah.
That's not okay. Which makes sense.
There's actually prominent, I'm surprised it doesn't mention it, but there's a prominent security researcher, Leslie Carhart, that recently ran into this same kind of a thing. And she ended up moving because they got the locks and they started doing like a forensic analysis on the locks, and it was as Internet of Things as you might imagine. It was not secure at all. Like literally just not even. And it's like, yeah, it'll be fine. It wasn't fine.
And in that situation, the landlord is the owner of the software. So, I mean, a landlord's going to get into your place if they want to, but that would make it very trivial for them to do so. Yeah. And to monitor when you're not there so they can sneak in and, pilfer or whatever. San Francisco has followed a couple of other cities in a surprising move when it comes to the war on cash.
SF approves a ban on cashless stores. Now, this is surprising because I've been to San Francisco and a lot of stuff there was cashless. So I have to think this was motivated by the whole Amazon store thing.
Well, they claim it was motivated because poor people and people of color, that's always the argument, is they have, it gave the percentages, but it was something like Black and Latino families, around 15% don't have bank accounts.
Well, it seems like they're slow on the uptake if that's the case because, last year, like all the little bodegas and streetcars and stuff, it was like, I need your, we're going to do this through Stripe. It was like, cash? It's like, no, let's do Stripe. Oh, okay. So sort of a weird situation.
I don't like painting it in terms of, identity politics. I think it's just a terrible idea to not use something as versatile as cash.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to get to a point where it's like, oh, I don't take that credit card because they charge too much.
Yeah. I
only take these credit cards. And then, oh, we only want Apple Pay. I have to be an Apple user to buy a deli sandwich?
No.
So
I like that. I mean, I like the ban. I agree. I think that if you run a store, you should take cash. I definitely agree with that. The timing of this is a bit suspect because it seemed like that a lot of things in SF were already basically cashless. And maybe that's why they reached a tipping point where it's like, all right, this is getting out of hand.
Well, they also, San Francisco is well publicized as having a huge homeless problem. Matt, you remember the poop app?
The whole thing was brown.
So it's probably true that some of these places stopped taking cash so those people wouldn't come into their stores. Because you're busking. I like how busking has become a word. It's not begging. It's busking. Busk on over to our Patreon.
Patreon.com/Level1.
But, it's like, hey, we're getting a lot of these undesirables in here with their ragged dollar bills, like they got 21s and they're trying to buy stuff.
They smell like poop.
Yeah, yeah. And, well, they're pooping in the store. So let's ban cash and then maybe they won't come in. Maybe there's something to that. Illinois is a hotbed of political corruption and, more importantly, crippling debt. Thanks mostly to Chicago and their horrific corruption problem. Illinois is, I think, one of the most indebted states in the union. And because of that, they're raising taxes. They're raising the gasoline tax more than double.
Yeah.
It's going from 19 cents a gallon, which is crazy, to 44 cents a gallon.
Yeah, that's happening in Michigan as well.
Think about 44 cents a gallon, and you're filling up between 20 and 30 gallon tank. That's a lot of money every fill up. But what do you do about electric cars? You can't catch them in that net, right?
Illinois has proposed a $1,000 annual registration fee for electric cars. So we need to call back to our previous story because I think people without bank accounts and people of color are going to have a real problem with either one of those things.
You think what do you think the Venn diagram of people without bank accounts and people with Teslas looks like? But yeah, so they're saying that because you're not filling up with gasoline, you're basically skipping out on the extra taxes. So they figure $1,000 a year will cover you. And that's up from $14.99 is what it is right now. So bad news. They do point out that, people got like a $4,000 state subsidy when they bought their electric vehicle, but it only takes 4 years to eat that up.
Yeah.
So still seems like an overall loss.
What a disaster.
And if you're in the electric vehicle game, you got to know that's going to crush your sales. Like that's like cost of ownership just skyrockets with that. Well, you alluded to this one. China, and we've talked about before how the Chinese, they enacted that ban on video games because it was corrupting the youth, they said. And they gave them like a couple of months grace period so you could do a review process. And that's over, and guess who failed the review process?
Tencent has shut down PUBG Mobile in China for a patriotic alternative. This article is talking exclusively about PUBG Mobile, and that's cool, but PUBG on the desktop also got the changes that I mentioned earlier, which it's cute. It is cute as heck because it's like, there's somebody crawling around, and then it's like you're going to kill them or whatever in the video game, and are
you sure I don't think it's PUBG. The thing about it is they replaced it. And the replacement is literally PUBG copied.
Yeah.
Like they took everything.
Yeah, it's
So it might be that other game you're talking about.
No, it's PUBG for the desktop, not PUBG Mobile.
Well, the mobile version they talk about is it's exactly the same, but like the storyline is I don't know how you justify them killing each other, but they're like part of the Air Force, the Chinese Air Force. So it's patriotic. Even though it's exactly the same.
Neat. It was just like, bye. And then there's the thing.
Yeah. Interesting that they would do that to one of their own. I mean, it's Tencent that owns it, right? Or no. It's Tencent made the copy, and Bluehole is Korean. Yeah. So they thought that maybe Korean-Chinese tensions were weighing in on the decision.
Probably.
In warfare, there is something known as asymmetric response, right? That's where I stab you with a knife and you shoot me with a tank, right? Overwhelming response. And I think in the history of warfare, there's never been a more asymmetric response than what happened in Israel and Palestine.
And at first, Israel has responded to Hamas hackers with an airstrike. So they have pictures of the building. That was, wow. I mean, just wow.
There it is. They got a video, too, from the spy plane that was looking at it. And there was no physical danger caused by this building. This was pure online hacking. And we don't know what. They didn't release exactly what they were doing. But they did admit it was all a, cyber threat and that they had already nullified it.
Yeah.
On the cyber end.
Well, the phrasing from they quoted the guy who said that they nullified it, and his phrasing makes me think that it's like, we knew what they were doing, and we stopped them, but they didn't really stop them, and it was annoying, so they did this.
blew up a building. It turns out NATO did accept that, like, the cyber warfare was a valid warfare front.
But 3 years ago, this is a consequence of that.
So if you cyber attack, that's an attack. There's no discrepancy between that and launching rockets, as you can see here.
What about if you just encourage criminals to run roughshod over the business enterprise? Because that's what we've got from Russia and China at this point. With all the ransomware and that kind of thing. It's like, we'll just let our criminals attack your stuff with impunity. That's not the state. It's just the criminals.
Well, in that situation, you have to risk huge international conflicts. But with Israel and Palestine, they're already... so.
It's already a bit of a mess.
Yeah, so what are you going to do? What you shouldn't do is hack Israel if you're in Palestine. That's pretty obvious. Do you think... I mean, that had to be... I guess they probably didn't even know it happened, right? It's just like 1 minute you're hacking merrily and the next minute you're dust.
Yeah.
But it's got to have a chilling effect.
I'll feel real bad if it turns out it was like the early cases of hacking here where it was just a precocious 12-year-old. It's like, oh, man.
Really? Well, you got to wonder what else was in that building.
Yeah.
I mean, they claim it was a Hamas building, but there was probably an accountant on the third floor. You know?
I got a great deal on this office space.
We talked about India getting into the space race, and of course China landed their dark side of the moon mission. Japan did that cool thing with the asteroid, but they're not done yet.
First private space Japanese rocket has reached space. So, yeah, Japanese rocketry is not anything new, but this rocket has made it to the edge of space. Well, this is almost.
Private.
Private.
The Japanese government's done it. They're the ones that went to the asteroid. But this is the Japanese SpaceX, a private investor.
I want to know what Japanese Elon Musk's Twitter is.
You think he's as vocal?
Engagement challenge.
So this thing just barely made it across the line that starts with a K that I can never think of. And it was only in the air for 8 minutes. So as far as rocket launches go, not great. And I don't think it landed on a platform like SpaceX does, but it will be a huge money-saving venture to launch satellites with these private rockets.
Yeah.
All things considered. So, congratulations to them. And switching over to India, now this story, I read this story and I imagine Indian politicians sitting around a table, and it's like, look how much money the EU is making finding these big tech companies. Why are we not doing this? What are we thinking? We got to get on this train.
India is investigating Google over alleged Android abuse. What alleged Android abuse, you might wonder? Well, location tracking and ad data and stuff that's actually built into Android, the stuff that you use Android for, basically.
Kind of like what the Indian government's doing with their biometric database. I was impressed that 97% of mobile phones in India are Android. They don't like iPhones for whatever reason.
Makes sense.
That's cool. But yeah, I think India is just looking to get on that gravy train of finding big tech companies. But it also, even with 97% of Indian users using Android, a tiny part of Google's overall Android market. So I think it's just probably a lot of low-cost phones and low-cost service plans and stuff like that.
I would guess that probably is because there's a lot of rural service. So, but there are a lot of people that have the phones that don't have computers. Like, that's their computational device. It does everything.
Right, yeah. But I think they overwhelmingly buy cheaper manufactured phones.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
that would make sense.
Although Android really doesn't, I guess the price of the phone really doesn't factor into it. Maybe they're just not big spenders on the store and stuff like that. Maybe they're not buying the $150 Candy Crush package.
But you got to think that with Google having that much control of the phone, that if there is any money to be made there, they're going to have the first opportunity to make that money.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if Apple is, like, what are they doing about that? Do they care?
They may not care.
Because India's, what they call an emerging market.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and they're getting into that middle class type of world that ours is falling apart. So it's going overseas, and Apple's got to be losing that battle.
I think historically my assumption's always been that India is in better shape economically than China in terms of, like, you want to sell your products. But I think the reverse is probably true.
Yeah, well, they had that Amazon thing.
Yeah.
They're very protective of their brands. but they don't have a smartphone OS, so maybe they'll make one. Fake news. We don't talk about fake news as much as we used to. I think it became kind of a meme, and then it lost its power.
We're all fake news, according to some folks.
We'll get a comment on YouTube from time to time. It's like, this is fake news. And it's like, well, okay, we're just kind of repeating it. But Singapore, I guess, they're behind the curve, and they've just now decided to get very serious about it.
Singapore has passed a new law to police fake news despite concerns. I read this, and the whole time I was sitting there thinking, they read what's happening in the EU, and they want in on some of that action, because it's not about fake news, it's about control of the internet. And this is a very thinly veiled attempt to do an end run around the internet as it exists today, and have EU-style controls. This is the first step.
The government can demand a takedown or a change of your online content. If you do not play ball with that, the fine is $1 million Singapore dollars, which is like 750,000 US, and some jail time, actually. So, take it seriously. But yeah, like you say, all the opponents of it are like, you're not really protecting anybody from fake news. You're just stifling speech that you don't like.
Yeah.
And they mentioned they have like the Freedom Index. Out of 150 countries measured on the Freedom Index, Singapore's in the 140s. So, a little bit of a track record there. The EU, a lot of people have celebrated GDPR, and we've seen some wins. The GDPR seems to have done some good things.
And then the copyright thing happened.
And it seems like they definitely are going after the big tech companies, and they're being more serious about it than we are. So maybe that's a good thing. But then you get into the hypocrisy of government. And that's where we come here.
EU quietly ramps up preparations to reintroduce blanket data retention after top court threw it out in 2014. This would seem to be the exact opposite of GDPR. So
it would seem like that.
I'm going to do, I'm going to enjoy some of the devices that the internet has to offer, which are perfectly legal. But there's going to be a record of that from now until the end of time, which some of my political opponents might use against me. That seems good.
Yeah, and they also talk about Article 13, which is now Article 17, which is like, it's like the Blackwater. Just change the name. Nobody will know. And how Article 13 could be to try to get in front of the GDPR preventing something like this.
Yeah.
Because they've kind of realized it's like, oh, wait, we pushed all this feel-good legislation, but that stops us from doing what we want. And so we need to change things.
So it's not really about protecting citizens at all. It's about controlling the internet. Oh, what program on YouTube could have possibly predicted that? YouTube.com.
So, yeah. Bad times. And that's another thing. It's like in 2014, everybody was celebrating that. It's like, oh, wow.
I want to hear from the people that posted, when we were talking about GDPR and how it was good for the EU citizenry. I want to hear from the people that commented on those videos back then now, where it's like...
You just bought yourself several 5-paragraph posts. I hope you're happy.
Hey, as long as the YouTube engagement algorithm is happy, I don't care.
You got to file this next story under, I wonder who paid for this.
Facebook and Instagram don't wreck kids' lives, claims a new study. Oh, sweet summer child.
University of Oxford. Now, they make an interesting suggestion here, and they claim to have proved it. And they assert that it's not that depressed, suicidal kids are made so by social media. It's that social media and social media abuse naturally attracts suicidal, depressed kids. So, of course, that's who's using that. It's the chicken and the egg.
That seems like something that could not be studied in a study that, is just a few weeks long.
Well, listen, the University of Oxford, they've looked at it, and they say you're wrong.
For about 4 weeks.
Yeah. Although, with, social media, as ubiquitous as it is, who are they studying that's not using it?
Well, I mean, how many instances of it can there be where there've been, like, really egregious near misses from kids in not a good state psychologically?
Yeah, and we've always had messed up kids. Let's not pretend that that's a new thing.
Yeah.
And it is true that social media kind of probably shines a light on some of the more messed up kids. Because before they were just messed up at home in their bedroom. And now you can witness their freakishness.
There does seem to be maybe a worse situation, which is when those kids that have problems connect with other kids that have problems, they're a lot stronger.
Yeah, it's like people who were sexually attracted to My Little Pony. We've had that kind of thing forever, right? But they were ashamed of it, as they should be. But now they can find others like themselves and normalize it.
Engagement challenge.
We talked about... I'm blanking on this. Who was it that was manually looking at posts?
Facebook.
Was it Facebook doing that too?
Yeah.
No, it was somebody else, right?
It was Are you talking
Amazon?
Are you talking about how like they were just losing their minds because they had to do such terrible, like they had to do and see such terrible things?
It was more recent than that, but it's all the same thing, and that's what this is talking about.
Facebook contractors categorize your private posts to train AI. So there is a bunch of people in India that are going through all of your private messages and reading them and then labeling them so that they can use it to train AI.
Yeah, and it's everything. It's your status updates, your videos, your posts, your private messages. Nothing is off limits. And what they're doing is, it's basically they'll go and read it, and they have a big list of categories, and it's like, oh, this is a birthday wish. This is a death threat, and then put it in the proper container. And that's just something they do to train the AI. But it means that somebody's reading your posts. They might not know exactly who you are. And I like they interviewed one of the guys who ran the center where they were doing this, and they were like, what if, like, there's privacy concerns. What if people speak out about this? Are you worried about losing your job? And he was just like, are you kidding? The AI would never work if we didn't do this. They're never going to stop doing this. They have to do this.
They did ask that. This is almost simultaneous with the keynote or whatever that Zuckerberg gave last week or the week before, where he talked about rebuilding Facebook as a privacy-focused company. And that guy was like, yeah, we're not, whatever changes are coming, we can't not do this because of that.
Yeah.
The AI has to be trained. We must train the AI. It must be
fed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the co-founder of Facebook has had a few things to say. Mr. Chris Hughes, you may remember him from the original pictures of Facebook. It's like, who are these two losers? Have a great. I'll show the picture later in the article.
Facebook co-founder says Zuckerberg is not accountable and calls for a government breakup. So Chris Hughes is saying, Facebook's got too much power. It's drunk with power. We need to just break it up, and that'll cause the antitrust issues to go away.
The Facebook PR response to this was so measured and gentle and level-headed, but Zuckerberg broke some glass behind the scenes,
threw some chairs. I mean, I miss the days where we had Microsoft. It's like when Steve Ballmer was pissed off, he was throwing chairs, and you knew, and it was fine.
There he is, Mr. Hughes, looking like he's about 12 years old in that picture. 2004, so long ago, when that came to be, that horrible thing. But yeah, I'm sure he's right. But if we break up Facebook, I wonder if we break up Facebook, does that really fix anything?
No.
What does it look like?
Facebook broken up is a gulf that's filled by Google Plus immediately. Even though, yes, I'm aware that Google Plus is no longer a thing.
But I mean, even if you break it up, the individual parts are still going to operate under the same focal, that's how they make money. How are they going to change just because it's a smaller company now?
Is there the better question to ask is there a way to provide what Facebook provides that people like without people having to give up a lot of information about themselves?
But I think they want to give up information about themselves in a lot of those cases.
Well, they want to give, I don't mind giving up information about myself to my friends and the people that I'm connecting with, but it's not necessarily the case that the service provider has to be able to be a part of that conversation.
But you can't make money doing that. The data is the money. We just have a government one that runs at a loss, like the post office.
That will totally get corrupted immediately.
No, never. That would never happen in a government system. Remember Cambridge Analytica? we're just now getting to the point where Facebook's going to have to pay the bill for Cambridge Analytica, and it's going to be in the billions. They're negotiating right now, which is interesting. It's like you're so powerful that you get to negotiate the settlement from your crime. A lot of people don't get to do that. And a new lawsuit has come out that maybe points to something almost exactly the same.
New Facebook lawsuit suggests another Cambridge Analytica has come to light. So the article breaks down elements of the lawsuit, and it sure does look like Cambridge Analytica because it's tracking and quiz applications and blah, blah, blah. This is more on like the marketing side. It's like building marketing profiles for people.
RankWave.
Yeah.
So RankWave would help you OAuth in Facebook people to your website or whatever you had, and then track those people through Facebook and their analytics to give you more insight about them, which sure sounds a lot like what Cambridge Analytica was doing.
I also use quizzes, like personality quizzes, just like Cambridge Analytica.
People love quizzes. You go through your entire school years hating quizzes. Then you get out of school, what do? You want to take quizzes online.
Which Game of Thrones character are you? Maybe that's the key to teaching high school history. It's like, which monarch of England are you? It's like,
which single-celled organism are you? Like, you could make it anything. Oh man, which geometric shape? We've all been waiting. And as we say, the wheels of justice, they turn slowly.
You've been waiting. I don't care.
I've been waiting breathlessly. You tell me you can't wait to see what happens with this.
I am curious to see what happens, but I really I don't care.
And it turns out the reason things were going so slowly is because Mr. Elon Musk, behind the scenes, was working tirelessly to say that he was not serious about calling that poor fellow a pedophile. But a judge has now ruled.
Elon Musk is going to trial for calling that cave diver a pedophile on Twitter. Womp womp. That's from The Verge.
Most of this comes out of an email he wrote to one of the websites. Was it Wired?
Yeah. He was like, oh, that was supposed to be in confidence. No.
And the email was basically like, no, seriously, he's a pedophile. No, look into it. Dude, you're a reporter. Go investigate. You'll find out he's a pedophile. And so
he said that he had a child bride or something.
He moved to Thailand to marry a 12-year-old girl was the implication. Yeah. So that's going to go forward. If he has any sense at all, he will do everything he can to settle with that guy.
Yeah.
And not admit guilt. But it's Musk, and he seems to have a lot of pride, so we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure that guy's looking forward to the money.
I would like to see Musk hire that guy that Bezos hired, like his PI. Like if Bezos' PI goes to work on this, and then I want to see that guy's report. Like if that guy comes back and it's like, where did you get the child bride thing? You need to settle this. It's like, all right.
Well, I've said before, the darkest timeline is if he turns out he's right all along. That guy was, because it's like not only is that bad for everybody because the child bride, but also because Musk gets to win.
Yeah.
And he gets
truly the darkest timeline.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one. I hope that guy is, but you got to think. If you're that guy and you really did do that, would you not have the sense to you have to weigh those two things?
Yeah, just let it go.
Because he's got unlimited resources to dig into your past. I don't know. And finally, well, that one was about Twitter, but one of our few non-Facebook entries and one of my favorite stories of the week. I had not heard of Jessy Taylor. Had you?
Nope.
No? Well, she's huge on Instagram, right?
Apparently.
But not anymore.
Instagram influencer whose $100,000 strong following got wiped says she called the police because it felt like murder. The police told her, no, in fact, it was not like murder at all.
Nor a matter to be calling the police over.
Yeah, a lot of people flagged her account as spam, apparently, and even though she had a lot of followers, it was removed.
Yeah, it's she in her quotes here. There she is. And she's basically an Instagram thought, as I gather.
Used to work as a stripper.
Yeah, attractive girl. And apparently she was she did some racist content at some point, and she was very mean to people who said not nice things about her. Went after them, maybe turned her followers against them, fought dirty, and over in these interviews, she's like, look, I made some mistakes. But I do find it weird that you can just get somebody to delete it.
It's probably an algorithm.
And the racial stuff maybe was what put it over the edge, right?
Yeah. A reviewer looks at that and it's just like, no, this doesn't make sense.
And she admits, she's like, no, I'm not racist. I just saw that other Instagram people were saying racist stuff and getting a lot of followers, so I figured I'd try it.
In our case, it's demonetized when people see the news from other websites and they're just like, no, I don't want to agree with this. And it's like, okay, we've entered a realm where we can't talk about news.
Well, that's how it goes. Well, we get those comments where it's like, I can't believe that you used the Washington Post as a source. Unsubscribe. And then 2 down, it's like, I can't believe you used Fox News. But yeah, she's also said that she's made $5 million. Or was it $500,000?
It was $500,000
in 3 years, which is not bad for not working. And but she's now saying, "Hey guys, with my lifestyle, that amount of money just won't last. I need to be back on Instagram." Seems to be. She's gonna switch to YouTube. Hey, welcome to YouTube.
I got some bad news.
If you think it's easy to demonetize you on Instagram, wait till you see YouTube.
Join our Patreon at patreon.com/Level1.
I wonder if she's got a Patreon.
Patreon frowns upon this kind of content now as well.
Well, I don't know that her content included nudity. It may have. She also continually refers to the fact that she's a Sagittarius, as if that's a defense. It's like, I couldn't possibly be this kind of person. I'm a Sagittarius. I dropped the keypad.
No.
My emote under the table that you couldn't even see.
That's the end of the show. What do we got coming up?
Tomorrow will be business, and I forgot what the other one will be. I think it will be robots. Yeah, business and robots.
We had some good business stories this week.
Business was the biggest group this week.
We'll see you tomorrow.